Want to increase your close rate on calls and prevent unqualified leads from clogging up your calendar? Today, I'm going to show you how to build an AI-powered system that nurtures your qualified leads before the sales call and automatically cancels unqualified calls for you. This is something you can use in your own AI automation business or build and sell to a client. I help builders and freelancers land consistent clients and build scalable AI automation businesses. So if that's you, click the link down below and join my free school community where you can take part in the free 4-week challenge to land your first or next AI client. Now let's dive in. Okay, the first thing that we need to do is set up the webhook in Calendly, meaning that we need to have Calendly know to automatically send the data to us whenever a new event comes in. So we need to come over to calendly.com/integrations, and then you're going to scroll down to API, and then you're going to click generate a new token, give it a name, and then copy and paste your token. We're going to take that back over to N8N. So go ahead and grab that and we'll come back to N8N. And what we're going to do is set up 2 HTTP nodes because we're going to create the webhook and then attach the information that we need Calendly to send. So let me show you what I mean. So the first request is going to this URL. We need to turn on headers, and then we're going to be sending an authorization header with the value of bearer and then your personal access token. Okay, and then that's all we need. So we went ahead and ran that, and that generated this output. So that's perfect. Now we'll come back to the canvas. And now we're ready for the second HTTP request. So for this one, we're making a post request to this URL. And again, we're sending headers. And then once again, we're sending the header of authorization and then bearer and your personal access token. And then we're also going to send body as JSON using JSON. And then if we open this up, so this is the JSON that you're going to need. So this is going to be the webhook that we're going to be actually sending the information to. And so what we're going to need to do is come back over to our canvas and we're going to add a node and it's going to be on a webhook call. So we're going to change it to the production URL. We're going to make it a post request. And then you can name it whatever you want. So I'm just going to call this one test. Okay. And then we're going to just grab that webhook URL by copying it, come back over to our second HTTP request node, and come back into our JSON body, and we're going to paste that link right in here. Make sure that you're grabbing the production URL and not the test URL. And then for organization, we want to look for resource current organization. And so that's going to be this field right here. So just drag this over in between these quotes. And now we're ready to execute this step. Okay, and now it's telling me that a webhook with this URL already exists for me. So that's because I already went ahead and set this up, but you will not see that output. Okay, so once those have been run successfully, now our webhook is going to be set up to automatically receive new calendar events that get booked through Calendly. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete these because we no longer need them. So the next thing we're going to do is that whenever somebody books an appointment, we're going to add them to Airtable. And I'm going to go ahead and create a record. So anytime that somebody books a new appointment with me, it's going to create a record in my Airtable database. And if you've been wanting a deep dive on Airtable, that video is coming next week. So be sure to subscribe if you are looking for more information on Airtable. Okay, so I already have my Airtable credentials set up, and I also have my Airtable database set up, and it is just a test user right now, but I'm going to connect it to my base that's called Calendly events, and the table is called leads. All right, and just so that we can get some data in here so that we can start mapping it through this workflow, I'm going to go ahead and create an event in Calendly, and I will be right back. Okay, so now I have pinned my test data in here. And so now I need to map that to Airtable so that whenever somebody books that appointment, it's going to record that in Airtable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to map the name. I'm going to leave the first name. I'm going to map the email, phone number, all of the qualifying questions that I have in here. I'm going to remove qualified status, and I'm going to leave appointment date and time. And you're going to see why I removed those in a little bit because I will walk you through the remainder of the workflow. Okay, so I'm just going to start dragging and dropping this stuff across. But basically, these are the qualifying questions that I have whenever somebody is booking a call with me to discuss coaching. Obviously, the business that you're working with, or if you're building this for yourself, those questions might be different. But the way that you want to map these in Airtable is just list out the questions. So let's say you have 4 different questions. You would just want to create a field that's like single line text or maybe long text, depending on what type of question it is and what kind of response that you're anticipating. but you're going to map them out here, and then those are going to show up here. And then as you can see on the left-hand side under questions and answers, it's going to have the question. So are you currently offering AI or automation services or planning to? And then their response, yes, I already work with clients. So you're just basically matching up what came through on the webhook from Calendly to what's going to go into Airtable. Okay, and then for appointment date and time, we switch this to expression, and we want to look for the start time. Okay, so start time is right down here. We're going to drag that over. And then the text reminder number is actually going to be their phone number. So obviously I'm just using a placeholder dummy phone number for this, but we'll drag that and drop it across. Okay, so now we will execute this step, and now we can see Jane example ended up in our database. Okay, so next we're going to message a model. I'm just going to use OpenAI's ChatGPT 4.0. So we're just sending a message to GPT 4.0. We don't need an AI agent node. And basically what this model is going to do is determine if this person is qualified or not. And if they are, they're going to get a nurture sequence throughout the week before we have our call. And if they're not, then we're going to go ahead and automatically cancel that call. So that way your calendar is not booked up with a bunch of unqualified people that you need to go and manually read the question, see if they're qualified, and then hit cancel, send them a message that tells them why you cancel it, all that stuff. Okay, so we are going to have two prompts. The first is the user prompt. Okay, and this is what the information is that we want to provide in the user prompt. So what's the person who booked the appointment, what's their full name, and then what are their responses to all of these qualifying questions. So we're just going to drag and drop from the Airtable node. So the full name is Jane Example. Monthly income goal. Are you currently offering AI or automation services? What's the biggest challenge? And are you ready and willing to invest? Okay, so as you can see on the right, all this stuff looks good. And now we can add the system prompt. So we're going to add another message, change this to system, and then I'm going to paste in this prompt that I already created, and then we can look at it together. Now, obviously, if you're building this for yourself or if you're building this for a client, then this is going to be vastly different potentially. But basically, the output that we're looking for here with this node is either they are qualified or they're not qualified. Just binary black and white, either yes or no. And so you are a lead qualification assistant. Your job is to evaluate whether a potential client is qualified for a coaching program based on their responses to qualification questions. And then qualification rules. So if they answered no or any variation of not ready to the investment question, they're unqualified. Obviously, if you are selling something or if your client is selling something and somebody states right up front that they're not ready to invest or they're not willing to invest, that automatically disqualifies them. Another one that I threw in here is if their monthly income goal is less than $1,000, they're unqualified. Like, I don't want to work with somebody who's got such low, hopes and dreams. I want somebody who wants to make $10,000, $20,000 a month. Everybody else is going to be considered qualified. So we're spelling out the input data, which is full name, and then the qualifying questions. And then these are the output instructions. So respond only with a JSON object in this exact format, and that's with their first name and whether or not they're qualified. So it's going to either be this or it's going to be this. And then the instruction is extract the first name from the full name provided. Do not include any other text or formatting in your response. So basically, we're just asking the model to do a little bit of extra work for us rather than using an Airtable formula to parse out the first name. And I think it'll work better that way because AI is a little bit easier to wrangle than an Airtable formula. Okay, so let's execute this step and see what the output is. Okay, so the user's first name is Jane and she is qualified, which is correct. All right, so let's head back to the canvas. All right, next we're going to add a code node. And the reason for this is that we want to clean up the output from the message a model node. And so this is basically just going to take this little blurb of text and it's going to take away any formatting, any backticks, etc. Okay, so we'll execute that step. And now we're going to see two separate fields. So one is status, and that's going to be qualified or unqualified, and then first name. So now it's cleanly separated out into two different fields, which will make it super easy for us to build the rest of this workflow. Okay, next we are going to update the Airtable record. So we'll add another Airtable node and we're going to update the record, and we are using the same base and list and table. Okay, and then we're going to match on ID because this is just the same record that we just created. So we're going to go ahead and open up the Airtable node that was a couple nodes back and drag over the ID. And now the only thing that we are going to update is first name and whether or not they're qualified. So I'm going to go ahead and delete all of these other fields. Okay, so now that we just have first name and qualified status, We can grab those from our code node, which is the previous node. So we're going to get first name, which is Jane, and the qualified status, which is qualified. Okay, so we'll execute that step. And if we come back over to Calendly, we'll see that the first name was updated right here and also her qualified status. Alrighty, next we want to add an if node. And this is where this workflow splits off into two different branches. Branch 1 is going to be they are qualified, so we want to nurture those leads. And this would be a great place for me to stop and talk about this. So there's something called the 7-hour rule. And this is from Ravi Abavala. If you don't follow him, you definitely should. He's a master of sales and marketing and lead nurture. But basically what he says is that leads need to receive at least 7 hours of high value content from you before you speak to them on a sales call, in order for you to maximize the likelihood that they're going to close. So if you're selling something high ticket, or if you have a client that sells something high ticket, then this is a great way to nurture those leads ahead of the call, get them more familiar with you, build that know, like, and trust with them, so that when you do get them on the call, number one, they're way more likely to show up, and number two, they're way more likely to close. So we're going to build that kind of branch right now between lead nurture and cancellation of the call if they're not qualified. Okay, so we're going to add an if node. And now basically we're just looking at whether or not they're qualified. So we're going to scroll down to their qualified status right here from the previous Airtable node. And if qualified status is equal to qualified, then that's true. Let's execute that. So that came out as true, which is perfect. And I'm just going to drag this down over here to save space. Okay, so if it's true, meaning that they are qualified, then we're going to enter them into our lead nurture sequence. And so this is really cool. Like I said, this is going to help keep people from ghosting you, keep you from dealing with no-shows, and it's going to help your close rate or that of your client. Okay, the first thing that we're going to add for the true branch is a wait step. So basically, we don't want to necessarily bombard someone right when they book a call, although you absolutely can change this wait step to your own liking. But I'm going to change this to at a specified time. And now for the date and time, I'm going to actually put this expression in. So let me expand this so you can see. So basically, this is taking the start time from the webhook and it's converting it to the correct format that this wait step needs to have it in. And it's putting it at 24 hours before the start time, meaning 24 hours before the appointment, they're going to receive a text and an email. And if you're wondering how I got this expression, I used Claude. So I just said, hey, I need an expression that will evaluate to 24 hours prior to the appointment start time. And Claude was kind enough to provide that for me. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a Twilio node and I want to send an SMS message. And actually, before I get to that, I'm going to go ahead and remove this wait step. We'll add it back in when we're ready for this to be completed, but we're not going to wait until next week for purposes of this demo. So I went ahead and connected my if node to my Twilio node directly. And so we're going to come in here and send from our Twilio number. If you don't have a Twilio number, you can go to Twilio and buy one for, it's like $1.15 if you're in the US. And then we're going to send to this cleaned phone number right here. Now I say it's cleaned because when the phone numbers come through, they're in this format. So they have the spaces and they have the dashes in between the numbers, and we don't want that. When you're sending something through Twilio, it just needs to have plus the country code and then the number. Okay, now for the message. So I'm going to say, hey, first name. So I'm going to scroll down to my update record node and I'm going to grab the first name from there. Lindsay Gonzalez here. Be sure to check out this video before our call tomorrow. And then you can put your video here. And that could be like a private YouTube video or whatever the case is. But you want to expose them to high value content. So this could be like a case study or a testimonial or like documentation of something fantastic that you built or whatever the case is. And if it's for a client, let's say they are a marketing coach. So you would want to have them document results that they've had with past clients, and then you can use that as a case study or testimonial. Or they can just do like a quick 10 to 15 minute video that talks about their strategy and how they help clients achieve their goals. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit them with an email. So depending on what email provider you use, it could be different than what I'm going to be setting up. So you might be using like Google Mail, but I'm going to be sending an email in this node. Now the from email is just going to be my first and last name and then these angled brackets and then my email address. And the to email, if I come back over to my update record node in Airtable, that's going to be this email here. Now let's just make the subject line, hey Jane, watch this before our call tomorrow. Hey, be sure to check out this quick video before our call tomorrow. It'll help you connect the dots between where you are now and where you're trying to get to. Okay, and then for the HTML, I'm going to go ahead and add this in here. And I also want to come back to the update record node in Airtable to grab her first name again. So it's going to say, hey Jane, be sure to check out this quick video before our call tomorrow. It'll help you connect the dots between where you are now and where you're trying to get to. And then I have this link. Obviously, you would just replace this with your link that you want to use. And then I will sign off. Thanks, Lindsay. All right. And basically, that'll just make sure that instead of my email being sent as one continuous line of text, that it's going to be broken up. It's going to have the appropriate formatting for the link, so it's clickable, all that kind of good stuff. All right, so I went ahead and used my phone number for the text message. So as you can see, it successfully generated that text. And then I also used my email address to send the email. So let's check it and make sure that we received it. Okay, and we did. One last thing is we need to turn off the N8N attribution. And then I do need to fix this so this is not all on one line. But as you can see, it just adds a little bit of spacing in here, has the link that is clickable and looks good. And it also shows that it's from me rather than from my email address. Okay, so we came back into the send email node, and I'm just going to add a break right here. So that's not all on one line. And I'm actually going to add a couple other breaks just so that everything is more spaced out. And like I said, if you are sending an email with SMTP, then you'll want to format it like this so that it will show that it's sent from your name or your client's name. And then you'll put your email address in the angled brackets so that that's the email that it's sending from. Okay, so now we know that stuff sends and it works. So what we're going to do is scoot this out. I'm going to add my wait step back in. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to copy and paste all these and connect them right here. Now, one thing I do want to add is if you want to send more frequent communication, let's say somebody has scheduled an appointment and it's not until 10 days from now, and you just want to stay top of mind with them, then you can absolutely add more of these sequences in here where you have a wait step, a text that goes out, and an email. You can have multiple of these. You don't have to stop at just 24 hours before the appointment and 1 hour before the appointment, which is what this next wait step is going to be. Oftentimes, if somebody is booking an appointment 10 days in advance, they're likely to forget it. But if you're sending them occasional text messages and occasional emails, showing them high value content, getting them excited about the meeting, they're way less likely to ghost you or forget about it. Okay, so now let's just come in here and configure this second wait step. And all we need to do to change it to 1 hour before the appointment start time is change this 24 to 1. So you can see in the result over here on the right, this is 1 hour before the appointment start time, which is scheduled for 12:12 at 9 a.m. And then if I change that back to 24, then it's the day before, so 12:11 at 9 a.m. So we're going to change that back to 1. Now it'll send 1 hour before, and then you can just repeat that process forever, as long as you want, or for as much communication as you want to have. I do recommend switching it up so you're not sending the exact same text every time or the exact same email, and definitely send different pieces of content so that they're not getting bored or wondering why you're sending the exact same thing. You want to hit them with a variety of content, showing case studies, testimonials, what your overall strategy is, how you help people, all of those different things. Okay, so now that the true branch is done, which are people who are qualified, we want to move to people who are now unqualified. So just for the sake of ease, I'm going to come back in here to my if statement and change this to is not equal to. I'm going to execute that just so we can get something in our false branch. Now I'll need to remember to change that back. But basically, I just want some kind of data in here as we're working through this so that we can map out what a cancellation looks like. All right, so the cool thing about the Calendly API is if you're able to automatically cancel appointments through the API. So I'm going to rename this cancellation. Now let's look at the URL that we're going to be sending this post request to. So it's going to the Calendly API, scheduled events, and then we need to plug in the scheduled event URI, which is going to be a long string that looks like this. And we can find that back in our webhook trigger. Okay, so you can see that the URI is right here, but what we need from it is just this number. So we can either use this expression, which splits out the first part of the URL, so this HTTPS all the way to this first slash right here, or what we can do is simply take the URI and put a / cancellation on there, and they're identical. All right, so we will leave this like that. And this again is the URL that we are going to be sending that post request to for the cancellation. Okay, so we're going to send the authorization header with bearer and then your personal access token. And then we also want to send the body as JSON using the fields below. So this is just the reason. So this appointment does not meet our qualification criteria. Please check your email for free resources. So basically you can change this to say anything you want, but this is the cancellation message that's going to go to the lead who booked a call that is being canceled. So that seems kind of cold. Let's actually clean this up a little bit. So we'll say, "Hi, Jane. This appointment does not meet our qualification criteria. Please check your email for free resources or, follow my YouTube for more information," or however you want to word it. But you do want to offer them something so that you're not just leaving them in the dust. So this is probably more something I would say. "Hi, Jane. It looks like you're not ready to invest in coaching right now. Please check your email for free resources." Okay, and then we're good to go with that. All right, and then we will just want to send that email that has the free resources. So once again, send an email. Okay, so once again, it's coming from my email. It's going to Jane. We'll make this say free resources for Jane. And then we'll just have this say, "Hi, Jane. Here are your free resources." Okay, so something like that. Okay, so I went ahead and executed the cancellation node. And now if I click this, Jane's fake email will receive the email that says, "Here's those free resources for you." And at this point, you might be asking yourself, why don't you just use the built-in notifications that come with Calendly? Because people ignore those. They're a lot more likely to respond to notifications or to look at notifications or emails that are coming from a real human and not those blanket Calendly reminders. Especially if they're the type of person that books a lot of appointments. They're going to see an auto reminder from Calendly and it's barely going to be a blip on their radar. But when they're receiving a customized text from you and a customized email from your email, they're a lot more likely to pay attention. And since you're already in N8N setting up this automated cancellation anyways, you might as well, set up the texts and the emails coming through. But if you are taking sales calls, I highly recommend that you implement this. Or if you're working with a client or you want to work with a client that has sales calls or they're taking a lot of sales calls, implement this for them and watch their pipeline change. And be sure to measure that before and after impact because then you can leverage those results in future dealings with clients. Now you have a full-fledged lead qualification and nurturing system, so you don't have to worry about checking the Calendly questions for every single event that shows up on your calendar. This is also a system that you can build and sell to service-based businesses to save time for them and increase their close rate and show-up rate. Be sure to click the link down below and join my free school community, and you can take part in the free 4-week challenge to land your first or next AI client. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.